let's dive right in. Artificial intelligence is everywhere now. It's creating art, driving our cars, and honestly, it's changing our world in ways we're still trying to understand. But when these AIs step out of the lab and into the real world, things can go incredibly right or catastrophically wrong. So the big question is, who gets the credit and who gets the blame? To get a handle on this, let's start with a number. $432,500. That's how much a piece of art sold for at a major auction house back in October of 2018. I mean, that's a fantastic payday for any artist. But here's the twist. The artist wasn't a person. That painting was created entirely by an AI neural network. And that one fact is where our story and a massive legal and ethical headache really begins. To really unpack this problem, we're going to look at two stories. Both happened in the same year. On the surface, they seem completely different. But trust me, they expose the exact same dilemma we're all facing. Okay, first, back to that painting. It turns out it was made by 3 university students who used a programmer's open source code. So when it came time to cash that big check, the programmer stepped up and said, "Hey, wait a minute, you used my code, so that money belongs to me." But the students fired right back, saying, "Yeah, but you didn't make the painting, we did. So who's actually right here?" Now for the much darker side of this. Just a few months before that painting sold, a woman in Arizona was hit and killed by a self-driving Uber. The police show up on the scene and they're faced with a dead body on the street and a question they've never had to ask before. Who do we arrest? The passenger who was just sitting in the car? The company that wrote the software? The CEO of Uber? Or do you arrest the car itself? And right there, you see the two sides of the exact same AI coin. With the painting, everybody is jumping up and down, wanting to be the author, wanting to claim that reward. But with the car crash, suddenly, nobody wants to be the author. No one wants the blame. It's the same fundamental problem. Just one is about credit and the other is about blame. So all of this really just boils down to one simple but incredibly important word: responsibility. Let's take a second to break down what that word actually means, because it might be simpler than you think. And this quote just nails the human element of it all, doesn't it? We love to take credit for the wins, but the second something goes wrong, everyone starts pointing fingers. At its very core, responsibility is just this: knowing what you are doing. It's all about awareness and having intent. Think about it this way. If you accidentally knock over a glass and it breaks, you can be blamed for it. You might not have meant to, but you're a person who understands cause and effect. You know what you're doing. But what if a gust of wind blows open a window and knocks over that same glass? Who do you blame then? You can't blame the wind, right? Because the wind doesn't know what it's doing. It has no awareness, no intent, and that's what makes all the difference. Okay, but here's where it all gets super complicated. For centuries, the things we created were just tools, kind of like the wind. They had no intent. But what happens when we start designing things to, well, have a mind of their own? I mean, that's what artificial intelligence is, right? We're literally making things that are smart. Things that can learn on their own, adapt, and make their own decisions without checking with us first. Suddenly, they're not just simple, mindless tools anymore. So let's play this out with a little thought experiment. A father has a son, and that son grows up and wins a big game. Does the father win too? Not really, right? The son gets the trophy, the son gets the credit. Okay, now, you make a robot, and your robot wins that same game. Do you win? I think most of us would say, yeah, I do. But now let's flip it. That same son goes out and robs a bank. Does his father go to jail? Of course not. No way. The son is his own person, and he is responsible for his own actions. But what if your robot goes out and robs a bank? Do you go to jail? If you're going to take the credit for the win, do you also have to take the blame for the crime? And that, right there, is the heart of the paradox. You just can't have it both ways. You can't treat your AI like a child when it succeeds, letting it take the credit, and then turn around and call it a simple tool when it fails just to avoid the blame yourself. This whole debate is forcing us to stare into a future where that clear line we always thought existed between human and machine, well, that line is getting seriously blurry. You know, for decades, the gold standard for this was the famous Turing test. The idea was simple. You talked to something, and if you couldn't tell if it was a person or a computer on the other end, the machine was considered intelligent. For a long, long time, this was pure science fiction. But we've completely blown past that milestone. We chat with AIs all the time without even thinking about it. And because of that, something really fascinating has happened. The test has been completely flipped on its head. Seriously, think about it. Every single time you log into a website and you have to click on all the little pictures of traffic lights, or you have to type out that weird, squiggly text, you're the one being tested. We now live in a world where we constantly have to prove to machines that we are the humans. And all of this leads us to a final, really profound question. It goes way beyond technology and the law, and it cuts to the very core of what it means to be us. So maybe all those old definitions don't really matter anymore. If something out there can behave like a human, talk like a human, and act like a human to the point where you can't tell the difference, then maybe it is human. At what point does its behavior matter more than what it's made of? And that's really the ultimate question this technology is forcing us all to answer. As we create these incredibly intelligent and autonomous systems, we're not just defining them. We're also forcing ourselves to redefine what we are. So what do you think truly defines us, our biology or our behavior? Thanks for watching.